Hey guys, welcome to your first lecture here for chapter 26. This chapter is going to be a fun one. It's human evolution. So we're going to look at primates and we're going to look at humans. And it's kind of cool. I don't know if I should spoil it for you now or at the end of the chapter. Um, I think I'm going to save it for the end of the chapter. It'll be kind of fun. We're going to look at a lot of fossils. We're going to look at a lot of skulls. And not surprisingly, from an evolutionary worldview, we're going to look at how Homo sapiens, that's us, came to just be super awesome, and everybody else came to be not around anymore. So uh, let's jump right into it. It's going to be fun. All right, your book starts this idea with us being a bit of a Neanderthal, as I guess what's supposed to be a punny expression, and that's true. There's Neanderthal DNA found in our DNA. Human-like fossils were found in Germany's Neander Valley. The fossils we're thinking are about 40,000 years old, and they were pretty thick bones and pretty long bones, and so, well, not necessarily that long, just dense. You can tell a bone is supporting a lot of muscle if it's more dense, and these bones were super dense. And so we found them in this cave, and they looked like a human. And so instead of saying, well, it's a human, we decided, no, this is like a pre-human species, and we're going to call it Homo neanderthalensis. And it's extinct now, but it used to be around, and they were really muscly. And we found similar fossils that look like them, and a lot of them are buried in caves. And so we think they had, a bit of a culture where they were having, burial sites and things like that. And compared with us, folks who are alive today, they were a little bit shorter and a little bit stockier, pretty muscly because their bones were so dense, and their brain was exactly as big as ours, or even a little bit bigger. And so basically, a really strong human. And you could say, well, that was because it was a really strong human, or you can say, no, it was a different species of pre-human. It's your call. I'm sure you know which way I'm leaning. But here you go. Here you have Homo neanderthalensis. The colors are pieces of bone that are from different fossils. The bone colored stuff is what we've added in. And so these are all from a different fossil site or a fossil dig that we have of Neanderthals. So a little bit of a tibia, a little bit of a femur, one patella. There's not a lot, but as we piece them together, we get a human who's strong. And this is us today. So there you go. Neanderthals, we think, lived in the Middle East, Europe, and Central Asia. And the last known populations probably lived in these seaside caves in what's nowadays Gibraltar. That's probably 28,000 years ago, and so they were around for 20, 30,000 years between friends. And there's pretty good evidence that they lived side by side with Homo sapiens because we have a lot of their, or at least some of their DNA in our DNA. So there was likely interactions, probably interbreeding, and for some reason, Homo sapiens made the cut and Neanderthals went extinct. Or did they? I'm just kidding. I don't know. I honestly just think they were short, stocky, buff humans. I know short, stocky, buff humans who I think if I buried them in the cave, people would think they were Neanderthal when really they're just Minnesotans. Don't tell on me. Okay, anyways, 2010, we found DNA from Neanderthal fossils, and it showed that mutations were shared between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. And we saw these same mutations in people from France, China, and Papua New Guinea, but not really in people from Africa, and not really in chimpanzees. So there you go, chimpanzees, sorry. So I guess that supports the out of Africa theory, maybe a little bit. It suggests that human Neanderthal mating likely took place in the Middle East after Homo sapiens began venturing out of Africa, because our most popular idea for the spread of human beings is the out of Africa theory. So I don't know where the Neanderthals came from, but I guess they were just chilling in Europe with their big old muscly biceps clubbing deer to death or whatever when the Africans met them, and next thing you know, babies. So, but before they dispersed to Europe, Asia, and elsewhere, we were all chilling in Africa, just cooking in the desert. So let's look at primates. Primates are super fun, and a lot of them are adorable. Look at this little guy. Look at him in his tree. So cute. Primates, they're placental mammals. Isn't that cool? Live birth, placenta, nurse the young with milk. They do mammal stuff. They even have hair, if you can't tell. These include humans, apes, monkeys, and close relatives. The idea is that they first evolved in warm forests. So a lot of the traits you're going to see in a lot of primates, even those alive today, and a lot of fossils, are traits that suit them to living a lifestyle in the trees. Here you can see this monkey here. He's got his what would you call it? Big toe, first digit on the foot. actually faces out from the rest of the foot so that it can grip branches. And so it's sort of like having 4 hands. He can grip branches with his feet. He also has, you can see his tail's grabbing a branch up here. That's called prehensile. He has a prehensile tail, which means the tail can help support him in the tree as well. And so they also had both eyes face the front, which doesn't necessarily make them a predator, although they can eat meat, some of them. Mostly it's for depth perception. If your eyes face out to the side, you're really good at telling if anything's moving around or trying to eat you, but you don't have a good depth perception. And when we get primates with both eyes in the front, we get good depth perception. When you're swinging from branch to branch, you want good depth perception. It's not that special. I mean, squirrels have it too. Both their eyes are facing the front, but we don't think we're that especially close to squirrels. So here you go. We can break our primates out by kind of traits, and we kind of put them in this evolutionary relatedness tree with how much DNA we share with them, what traits we share with them. And there's wet-nosed primates, and then dry-nosed primates comprise most of what we're seeing on this scale. And then we have, this is a tarsier, and then anthropoids, or like, like people, I guess, like human. And there's New World monkeys and Old World monkeys, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Then hominoids, we have gibbons, orangutans, gorillas, chimpanzees, and bonobos, which look a lot alike, and then modern-day humans. So here's the deal with primates, the whole order of primates. Compared to a lot of other animals, they're going to have a really large brain compared to their body size. They have different regions that are devoted to vision, and information processing and smelling and all these things. And vision and information processing, like especially the frontal lobe, is a lot of the logic and decision making is enlarged in primates. So they I guess you could say they spend a little more time thinking and making decisions than some other animals might. The area devoted to smell is going to be a little bit reduced compared to a lot of animals. The sense of smell in a primate's not that great, but the vision's very, very good. Primates are reasonably successful because they have a varied diet. A lot of the primates you and I are going to look at have all 4 types of mammalian teeth. They have the incisors and the cuspids and the molars, and so they can use molars to grind plant material. But if they stumble upon the just dumb luck of finding a baby bird nest, they can also use their canine teeth to chomp down all these baby birds and get a little quick protein that way. That's sort of a gross thing. If you've never seen that YouTube video, there's a troop of chimpanzees that take a whole tree of baby bird nests down and they just eat them and move on. It's pretty amazing and disgusting. Primates spend life in social groups with adults of both sexes. So it's not like some animals where you have one male with a bunch of females, or the females and males separate out, but rather males and females, young, old, they'll all kind of live together in bands in a lot of primates. And the females will give birth to really only 1 or 2 young at a time, and they're going to provide extended care after birth, and sometimes even as certain primates, as they grow into adulthood, they will still hang around with their birth mother, which may or may not surprise some of you guys. Primates arose before the extinction of the dinosaurs, and I'm going to show you a fossil of what we think the first one might have looked like. Exactly when primates came on the scene, we really don't know, and you're going to get a lot of that this chapter. We're going to see a lot of fossils and then multiple explanations for these fossils, and it's really a big chapter on disagreements with very little evidence and a lot of hopefulness, but I'll try not to be too cranky about it. So the common ancestor of all our modern primates evolved 85 million years ago. On an evolutionary time scale, that is really short. 85 million years is not a very long time. There's extensive branching about 50 million years ago. We got wet-nosed primates and dry-nosed primates. And examples of the primates that have maintained that wet nose are lemurs of Madagascar, lorises of India and Asia, and then galagos in Africa. And the wet nose is really good in detecting scents. The more wet the air, the stronger the sense of smell is. And you've noticed this if you've ever been out in the forest after a rainstorm, it smells great. Or if you've ever been in a big city after a rainstorm, it smells disgusting because the scents were always there, but as the air is more wet, you detect more scent. And so having a wet nose helps you do quite a bit more in the smelling department. So that is a lemur. And here you have a wet nose and a cleft palate. So his upper lip runs up like a rabbit. And that's something you don't see in a lot of primates. Here you have a tarsier, and the tarsier has these big sticky finger pads that help him hang on to the tree, and he has no cleft palate on his lip, but he does maintain that wet nose, so he's pretty good at smelling. Or rather, sorry, he has the dry nose, sorry. But you can kind of tell from his appearance how he catches most of his food is really eyesight. I mean, look at the size of these things. They're massive. Crawl around the tree, eat some bugs, Pretty simple life. That's a tarsier. So, dry-nosed primates, we're going to look at humans and pretty much all the other primates that are around today. Tarsiers are the oldest surviving dry-nosed lineage, and they're small nocturnal insect eaters. You can tell from his eyes that he's going to spend a lot of time out at night. They live on southern Asian islands. And then there's anthropoids, which are monkeys, apes, and humans. And these guys are mostly going to be eating plant material, but I think you'll find that chimps and bonobos and a lot of monkeys, they'll take protein where they can get it. If it's plant material, that's fine. But if it's small mammals, birds, ants, they'll eat other animals too. It's just not their go-to source. So there's your lemur, there's your tarsier, there's the squirrel monkey. He's got a little flatter face. This guy has a longer face, kind of like a dog almost. He's got his prehensile tail. And this is a baboon, the old world monkey. He's got a longer nose and he's got a shorter tail, which is not prehensile, which is fine because he lives in open grasslands and plains, so he doesn't need a tail to hang onto tree branches. So there's New World monkeys and Old World monkeys. Your New World monkeys, not surprisingly, are Central and South America, right? When Columbus discovered the New World or whatever, that was, the Americas. So Central America, South America, North America, sadly, no monkeys, but it's just cold up here, I guess. I don't know. So that's where New World monkeys are. They probably arrived from Western Africa like 35 million years ago. Your book puts out the idea that they came across the Atlantic Ocean on rafts, which, holy smokes, man. That would have been a trip. They think because of continental drift, it would not have actually been as daunting of a trip as it would seem today because the continents were a lot closer and just starting to drift apart. But still, the idea of lots of populations moving on rafts, I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I've never seen monkeys on raft, but, I haven't been around that long. Then there's Old World monkeys. There's quite a few more of those. That's Africa, which has a lot of monkeys. Middle East and Asia. Asia's cool because it has those monkeys that like sit in the thermal pools and get snowed on all day. That's pretty fun. They're going to be quite a bit larger than New World monkeys. They're going to have a little longer noses, and they'll have downward set nostrils, whereas the New World monkeys have nostrils that flare out to the side, and you kind of can't help staring at them because their nostrils are staring right at you. And apes and humans, we're putting them in hominoids. Look like humans. So here's your New World monkeys. See what I mean about the nostrils? Look at them. They're just staring right at you, facing out to the side. Oh, weird. So weird. Okay. And you can see a few prehensile tails. There's his prehensile tail. New World monkey, South America, prehensile tail. He's grabbing onto tree branches with it. And then here's your Old World monkeys with the downward facing nostrils. Some of them have tails. These guys don't have much for tails because look at them, they're cold. You don't want a tail. This guy barely has a tail, and they're really never prehensile. And their nostrils are facing down, like your and I's nostrils are facing down. His are kind of flared up a little bit, but they're facing down generally. So that's Old World monkeys and New World monkeys. So hominoids, they share an ancestor with Old World monkeys, and we think it lived about 30 million years ago, and it's called proconsul. And proconsul lived about 20 million years ago with flattened molars and no tail, and we think it probably walked on 4 limbs. I'll show you a picture of that here just in a little bit. Later in the Miocene, Africa started to become hotter and drier, and so you're kind of transitioning from this lush forest with really tall trees everywhere into more of like dry grassland, and having that design of the big toe that splays out to grab limbs and prehensile tails, it doesn't matter as much when the climate starts to become drier and you're looking at open grasslands. You want to start to move across open grasslands to better habitats, and that those designs are not going to work so well. And so as Africa became hotter and drier, new species of apes were thought to evolve to take advantage of these new habitats that were coming about. So here's what we have for a proconsul fossil. We get femurs, tibia, hands and feet, and a skull, a pretty large jaw, kind of extends out past the nose a bit, and then a pretty small brain case. So at any rate, definitely an extinct monkey of some sort, or an extinct ape of some sort. Here's if we take this and we take all the bones that are missing and fill them in with our own design, we can build, if you'd like, a little tree dweller, which is kind of cool. And then we could throw some fur on him if we want to kind of make him look like a pre-chimp or something like that. We can throw a little bit of fur on him, put him in a social group. I mean, really, you can do whatever the heck you want. Once you have a fossil, you just take your artwork out and make whatever you want with it. Really, you get a lot of flexibility there. So that's a fossil of a really old extinct ape. or monkey or something like that. So there you go. When we look at modern apes, there's a lot of different modern apes. There's 15 different species of gibbons that are living in Southeast Asian forests, and habitat destruction is kind of being pretty hard on them. But gibbons are really cool because they have super long arms, disproportionately long arms for their body, which is why they're my favorite ape, because I have disproportionately long arms for my body, and a lot of them come in redhead shades, which is also why they're my favorite ape. They just remind me of me, you know. They have long curved fingers, and their fingers are always curved because they live in trees, and their fingers help them swing in the branches. You see his little big toe sticking out there. He can grip branches with his toe as well, and they're living in family groups in Asia. And then there's some forest-dwelling orangutan apes that are in Sumatra, Borneo, places like that. They're the only surviving great ape in Asia, and just because of their size, you know, they live solitary lives pretty much by themselves. They can climb trees, but they're pretty slow, so it's not surprising for them to hang out on the ground a bit, hang out on the trees a bit. They're not really favoring one over the other. Males are big, twice as big as females, maybe a little more. And so there you have the male orangutan with these weird kind of facial structures sticking out, and then the female orangutan's a little bit narrower. Cool. So African great apes are native to Central Africa, and our examples of those are gorillas, chimpanzees, and bonobos. And I didn't even know what a bonobo was, so I had to look it up online, and that was traumatizing. That's a bonobo, and they have a lot of behavioral deals that are different from chimps and are kind of disturbing. But they live in social groups. Gorillas, chimps, and bonobos, all of them do. Most of their time is spent on the ground. They can get up into trees. They do fine climbing, but they prefer the ground. They support their weight on their knuckles when they walk, and so they're walking on all fours. They can walk a little bit on two legs, but not efficiently, not for very long, just long enough to show another chimp that they're bigger than him and he should back down or something like that. Gorillas are the largest living primates. The gorillas are super huge, of course. And then chimpanzees and bonobos are much smaller than gorillas. They're about our size or a little smaller. And they live in what can be really large social groups. And they're going to feed mostly on fruit, but they'll eat other vegetation. And like I mentioned earlier, insects, small mammals, that kind of stuff. If they can dig a little squirrel out of a hollow log, they certainly will, and they'll eat that. So here's your examples of different types of apes. The gibbon, the orangutan, here this one's in a tree, which is kind of cool. The gorilla, which is supporting his weight on his knuckles, and then the chimpanzee, which still has that splayed big toe, so he can still grip the trees with it, which is kind of nice. If he wants to climb, he's a good climber. And then his tiny little stubby thumb, that's important. He can't face the thumb to the forefingers, so he's not nearly as dexterous as you and I. He can do a power grip, really strong grip, just closing his hand, but he can't point the thumb tip to the pinky tip for a precision grip for, like, you know, putting a button on a shirt or painting or sewing or fly tying or anything that requires a lot of dexterity. But he can grab a stick really strong and club another chimp to death with it if he wants. They have a lot of interest-specific aggression in chimpanzees. So let's go ahead and pause there, and we'll come back to differences between humans and chimps next time, but I think I've kept you for quite long enough for this time. So thanks for your time.